We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's just the two of us today. Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. Meg is visiting Mars, is what we decided on, right?
Yeah, don't ask about Meg.
So, this season, we are covering the first season of Taste the Nation with Padma Lakshmi. But before we get into Taste the Nation, let's find out what we've been up to as far as cooking, eating, and things in the kitchen.
Oh man, I know it's my turn because I'm the only other one here. I made brownies.
Ooh, I saw the pictures.
I wish they were the ones that I made for when we did our brownie redemption episode, season potluck Jabibo, whichever season that was for us.
3?
Anyway, I made really delicious brownies. They were very fudgy. They were thick. They were gorgeous. They had raspberries on top. And they were also vegan and gluten-free and refined sugar-free as well.
Nice.
But yeah, effing delicious. It was fun to make. I got to use my new hand mixer, my KitchenAid hand mixer. That was a gift to myself. I had these they weren't chocolate chips, but they were like chocolate chunks of like 70% goodness. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You boil water and then melt those down and then cocoa powder with that too. That's how chocolatey they are.
Ooh. Now that I know how much chocolate was involved, like my mouth was watering just seeing the pictures that you sent me. But now I'm like, God damn it, I wish I could fly Superman style to LA and get these brownies.
Yeah, come on over. They're in the fridge right now. Oh, that's also like the trade secret. Once they're done, like cooling from the oven, put them right in the fridge and they'll maintain that like thick, fudgy texture. And they had like crinkle top too. They were like the most perfect vegan brownies I've ever made. That's why I was like, I wish I made these for the show.
But now, is this going to be like your go-to vegan brownie recipe, you think?
Oh yeah, like these were fantabulous and easy to make. Like I know it's a win when the picture that I post looks pretty much exactly like the picture on the recipe website.
Nice.
First try, knocked it out of the park. Fantastic. They were yummy and good. And that's what I made.
I've not really made anything. The last couple weeks, as Justine knows, I've been very, very busy and working a couple of jobs. So I haven't had a lot of time at home. But yesterday, my brother-in-law is in town visiting, and we checked out a new market area. So yeah, this new location of the North Market is in Dublin, and we went there, and there's lots of restaurants, but there's also fresh, and it's all local stuff. So it's all like fresh butchers and bakeries, and my favorite place was called Bread, and it was a fromagerie and bakery and cafe. It was very cool. And the best thing, there's Mexican, there was falafel, there was, I think, East African, there was Italian, like there's all kinds of stuff. And my favorite, like I said, was Bread. I got a turkey and Gruyere scone from there. That was just, oh my God, it was so good. And I had like my husband and his brother and my mother-in-law, I had them all like try it, and everyone was like, that is like the best thing here. But the best news is this market I can easily get to on my way home from work. So Jeremy and I have already been making plans to get like some fresh bread. There's a place that just makes like fresh pasta that we could do like a really nice just like dinner on the weekend, and I just pick stuff up for us on the way home.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is I've always loved the North Market, but whenever, I have to go downtown, it's like you have to really plan it out, and you have to figure out the parking, and you have to figure out the timing and everything. And that this is like so conveniently just on my way home from work is fantastic.
Nice.
I did have roasted zucchini and squash the other night too at my mother-in-law's house. That was very good. She roasted them in the air fryer that she also got a matching air fryer to the one my husband got. And she just put Parmesan cheese on it, just like shaky cheese is what we call it in my house. And she just put shaky cheese on it and put it in there, and it was chef's kiss. It was fantastic.
I want you to write a cookbook now with shaky cheese as an ingredient.
It's just become what we call it. I don't know. It's kind of funny because I think it started with my family, and then Jeremy's just adopted it. And so we were like at his mom's house, and his brother's like, oh, Parmesan cheese. And Jeremy's like, hey, pass me the shaky cheese.
Have you been able to catch up on any episodes of Bake Off?
Yes, I put that in back burner because I am caught up.
All right.
Well, let's get into today's menu. We have, first up, episode 5, What is Chop Suey Anyway? And the Hulu description of this is, Chinese food is one of the most popular cuisines in the United States, but the flavors have been simplified over time. In San Francisco, Padma explores how Chinese immigrants and Chinese Americans are broadening people's understanding of this cuisine.
So, did you grow up eating Chinese food?
I did. I did grow up eating Chinese food. I remember the first dish that, as a kid, I was like, okay, I can get down with this, was Warsu Gai, because it was basically just fried chicken with a sauce.
Wow.
What about you? Did you grow up eating Chinese food?
Heck yeah. We used to get it a lot as takeout. And we would get... What would we get? We would get, like, shrimp fried rice, chow mein.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My mom loved chow mein. What else would we get? Like, spare ribs, egg rolls. Actually, I need you to Google New York style egg roll.
What is a New York style egg roll? To the Google.
What you'll notice about these is that they're friggin' huge.
I guess, to me, that looks like egg rolls in the Midwest also, so... Egg rolls are big, and then spring rolls are smaller.
Let's see, it has a whole Wikipedia. American egg rolls are distinctive. A typical New York-style egg roll measures approximately 2 inches in diameter, 6 inches in length, and with a thick, chewy, crispy, bumpy exterior skin. 6-inch long egg roll.
Okay, that's pretty long. I'm trying to think of inches now.
As big as your hand. Pretty much.
Yeah, I guess maybe the ones here are a little bit shorter, but not by much.
So context, I'm like, that's what I grew up with thinking that was an egg roll. Like standard.
So as I was watching this, I kept thinking about, I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but my mom's husband, Carlos, is a Chinese American man. And so we eat a lot of Chinese food with my family, and we celebrate Chinese New Year every year. And he is constantly criticizing me because I love crab rangoon. It is one of my favorite things in the world. And he's always like, but Amanda, that's not real Chinese food. And I'm like, Carlos, I know, but I love it. Please don't take it away from me.
It's food, though. That tastes good.
It is. It's food that tastes so good. And, like, my favorite Chinese buffet that Jeremy and I go to pretty regularly, part of why I love it so much is the crab rangoon is just top notch. It's amazing. That was the last restaurant when everything was shutting down with the pandemic. That was the last place we went before everything shut down. And it was one of the first places we went back to when things opened up again. But I do think, like, in context with this episode, it is very interesting because there was the one guy and just like they didn't say who he was. It was just one of like the people that they interview on the street kind of thing where he said, yeah, I think of American food as like hot dogs, hamburgers, and Chinese food.
Yeah, agree. I don't think I went and got real Chinese food until college or right after college. I went to a Chinatown. I was brought there by the directors I was working with on a movie I was editing.
Oh, okay.
They're like, oh, our friend such and such, she said this restaurant in Chinatown was great. We're going to go there. Yeah, so that's when I think it was like authentic for me. Actually, yes, going to the Chinatown in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to the Chinatown here in this episode in San Francisco, but by that point I was vegan, so I was only going to the vegan places there.
Oh, okay. I've been to Chinatown in New York, and actually before my mom was with Carlos, I went to Chinatown in New York, and that was my first like real authentic, not the Americanized Chinese food. And we went to a dim sum place, and I remember being like, oh, this isn't anything like the Chinese restaurants at home. But it was also quite the experience just to have that where they're bringing everything around to you and you're trying to decide what to have. And I remember my birth father was with me, and he was like, oh man, chicken feet. And me being 19 was like, Dad, why are you eating chicken feet?
When I was young, we used to go, there was this Polynesian place that I would love to go to for my birthday when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Monku, and we'd always get the poo-poo platter. Either that or we would go and get hibachi.
Yep. I love hibachi, but that's also more Japanese than Chinese.
Yeah. Well, in regards to like all of the Asian foods that I have experienced, I do have a relative who's Filipina, so I've had authentic Filipino food. Just putting that out there. I'm not completely like...
But no, I mean, I feel like that's one of those things, particularly as we're watching Taste the Nation, is seeing those things that are considered authentic, and then as they come into, you know, the melting pot of America and then becoming a new hybrid food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we've talked about, each episode kinds of will go through when this group of people first, like, immigrated to the U.S., and Chinese people came to the U.S. very early in our country's history, honestly, like early 1800s.
Yeah, they were a part of the gold rush and...
The gold rush and the railroads, and such a huge part of our history. And then it's a food that's been around just as long, pretty much, as like the German food from the second episode. And I think in both of those, you see how a lot of that stuff has been Americanized.
Yeah.
It's been here so long that it's become something else. Like the title of this, like, what is Chop Suey anyway? Which I've never had chop suey. Like, that's never been anything I've ever ordered. And I don't know if that's more of a West Coast thing.
Yeah, I also have we never had chop suey. That was not one of the things we ordered from Chinese restaurants. It was like chow mein, lo mein, and meat, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of fried rice and...
Yes.
Yeah. Which I just found very interesting as this being like a big thing that they were talking about. And granted, it was regional to San Francisco, what they were exploring in this episode.
But I mean, I've heard of chop suey, and I think it is like ubiquitous, as you would see those signs everywhere. And I believe that, you know, those signs, storefronts also exist in New York as well.
Well, yeah, when Padma was talking to Ali Wong, who I just adore Ali Wong, and I was
God, I love Ali Wong.
I was so happy that she was in this episode.
She's
like,
so great.
In the little cold open, I was like, oh my God, it's Ali Wong. I was so excited. And she had fabulous glasses. But
as always.
Yeah, when they were talking about like the pictures of the food and like, has that ever seemed appetizing to you and brought you in to eat that? And I thought it was interesting in like our Pod Appétit world is, you know, last season we talked about Nadia Bakes, and we were talking about the difference between the cookbooks in the US versus like a cookbook in the UK, and there's going to be more pictures in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting, you know, then in this episode where they're talking about the Americanization of Chinese cuisine and how all of these places, it's like they have the pictures, and whether they look appetizing or not, it seems like that is a way to Americanize it more, is put up these pictures, so then any Joe Schmo is going to be like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, and like the pictures in the menu too. It is kind of how you read the menu. You just look at it and you're like, yeah, oh, that looks good. I want to eat that. Like, It's got rice, it's got beef. I'll go for that, you know.
Well, and we've talked about you do eat a little bit with your eyes. If it doesn't look appetizing,
Yeah.
you're
But
less...
I think it's also that we're not really making Chinese food in our homes as white people, it feels like.
No. I mean, I'll admit my mom didn't make Chinese food at home until she was dating Carlos. Now she does that more often, but it's, it was not a thing that she was doing before dating a Chinese American man.
I always say, I'm like, these episodes kind of make me depressed. I'm like, I'm a white person with no culture. And I'm like, well, I guess that's why we steal other people's cultures. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, and going from our last episode, like how you and I and Meg were talking about, like, we had no idea about the Gullah Geechee people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this whole culture right here that's thriving, and we had no idea. In this episode, one of the history things was that Chinese Immigration Act of 1882 that I had no idea about. Like, that is not something that, at least in Ohio, was taught in schools, that for 61 years, Chinese people were not allowed to immigrate to the U.S.
So you should watch Eugene Lee Yang did Asian history sort of video earlier because of all of the attacks and rampant racism. We watched it at work and had a discussion about it. And it was talked about how it's not really taught in school very much.
Well,
I remember it
it's
being
like...
taught in school, but kind of just like, and then this was a thing, like as a one-line sort of thing.
That shouldn't be something that we as women are in our 30s had to learn from videos or a television show on the internet.
There is a lot of talk in this episode about like the onus being on them. Like when Ali Wong talks about, how she's going to raise her children. She's like, well, yeah, I have to of course I'm going to tell them all the stuff that's happened in all these traditions and cause schools. Oh. I feel like pushback is normal before any major growth happens. It's happened before. Like even, I just off the top of my head think of like McCarthy era.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things get bad and then they get better incrementally, maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that is something throughout all of history, as you look, everything starts to become more and more liberal, honestly, like as time goes on. But like you said, there's like that pushback periods and they suck, and we're definitely in one of those right now.
They talk about that a lot in this episode, and especially the next episode, where they're like, if only people would just communicate, meet us at the dinner table. We'll start out with food and go from there, as a way for acceptance and learning about other people and that we're just people.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I wrote down in the next episode, but it applies here too, is, and I'm sure we'll get into this when we do our digest at the end, but just the whole theme in every episode of like the racism and telling people to go home, and then the prejudices. When Padma was talking to Cecilia Chang in this one, that she talked about, because she was a woman and because she had come from China instead of being an American-born Chinese, she was getting doors slammed in her face both by white people and by people in Chinatown because she wasn't speaking Cantonese, because she was Mandarin instead. And it's just like this constant theme of people being like closing off, and it sucks. But I also feel like, yes, that is America, unfortunately. Like, it's the cold, hard truth of it. And I know we keep kind of bringing this up, but I like that is being featured in this show, because I feel like...
You thought it was just going to be a food show. You thought wrong.
But if we don't face those truths about our culture, you can't learn and make a difference going forward.
Yeah. Speaking of Cecilia Chang, Miss 100th birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Wonderful woman.
She was so adorable. And just like, and she's like, oh, I'm a champagne lady too. Like, I'm into champagne.
That's right.
She was great. So let's see. So some of the other places they visited, Mr. Jew's with Brandon Jew.
A Michelin star restaurant.
Then they went to the Zhaochen farm in Marin County. And every time I hear Marin County, I think of my favorite murder. But
Well, I do want to say of Mr. Juice and what he said.
yeah, absolutely.
That the food that they're making there is paying respect to what it used to be, but at the same time pushing the boundaries of what it could be. It's that whole conversation we've been having for over a year of like, is it traditional? Like, maybe not in the sense, but if you go to the country, it's probably and possibly like what they are building towards now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There is an evolution in food too. It's not just we've done this one thing forever and we're going to keep doing it forever. I mean, unless you're like French British cooking.
Yeah, but even
unless you're Bake Off.
but even then, people aren't eating Tudor style food regularly. Yeah. Like, that's not, it's an evolution. Well, and I thought that was also, it was interesting that Brandon Ju ended up being the one who made chop suey for Padma, because it was interesting to see the evolution of the people talking about, like, each person she asked, what is chop suey? Mm-hmm. And it going from like, oh, I don't even know, to like, oh, it basically a bastardization, you know, to paraphrase, but saying like, oh, it's just chopped up and it's pieces. And then Brandon was like, it's about using what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally using the things that were just there at the farm and bringing them together to make something new. It's about what you have on hand and bringing that into the food.
One thing with that, I wish in the show that they would talk about which oils they're using, because I feel that that really separates regionality.
That is a good point. I hadn't paid attention to if they listed those when they are showing the ingredients.
I don't think they have. But like when I watch Bong Eats on YouTube, it's always like mustard oil, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I wasn't even thinking about that, because I was like, tomato water. And that was the part Jeremy watched with me, and he was like, you would never eat this. Because it was like soup form. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't mean I can't watch a show and appreciate what it is and what they're saying just because I wouldn't want to eat it. Honestly, I was on board until they added tomato water.
Yeah, definitely not traditionally what you think of when you think of chop suey, but very interesting with the tomato water, like you said, the vinegar, ginger, chili oil, like a lot of layering happening. And then the stir-fried greens. Mm-hmm. Seems quite easy to make with what you have around the house. I'm down for this chop suey, you know?
There, you can start making chop suey at your home too.
I'm on it.
This whole episode really was, like you said, evolution, and then it ended with like the quote unquote like digital Chinatown.
Yes, I looked up that app equivalent for LA.
Oh yeah, did you find some new restaurants you didn't know about?
It's interesting. I didn't get to deep dive super well into it, but there is also just like a lot of meat featured.
right, and I know you have to avoid that.
But very cool using digital spaces like that for connection and community.
Taste the Nation is going to be starting a second season that was clearly filmed during the pandemic, and just those digital spaces are more important than ever for community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good episode. And I like this one, and the next one are places that I've actually been. So ha!
I'm excited to talk about the next one with you. With that, we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Now we're going to find out where the Kabob is hot. Padma tastes her way through Los Angeles, sampling one of her favorite cuisines, Persian food. The community opens up about the misconceptions some Americans have about Iranians, one kebab at a time. So you said you've been to some of these places.
It's so funny. When I did my little staycation back in May, stayed right there at Westwood. Mm-hmm. I didn't eat at any of those places, but I did order from a Persian place. And I was gonna go to that ice cream place. But then like it was just a little bit too far of a walk for me.
Oh, man.
I know. But I mean, it's there. You can always go back.
Something else that I liked about both of these episodes is that they opened with comedians. You know, we mentioned Ali Wong in the previous one and then Maz Jobrani in this one.
Yeah, he was a good tour guide. Tyrangelus. I feel like I knew... I mean, like, there's little, fill in whatever country all over LA. There's, like...
Yeah.
Little Ethiopia. But I didn't know, like, how big the Persian community is.
Right, that it's the largest Persian community outside of Iran. That's one of the things I'm liking about this show as well, is it's showing how immigrants will kind of come together in certain areas where other immigrants are going at the same time. Like, I know we have a little Ethiopia in Columbus. There's also a large Somali population. There's a very large Indian population.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, like... I just opened up a map of LA right now, and I'm looking at, right, you can see here Thai Town, which is right next to Little Armenia, and then I could see Little Bangladesh right next to historic Filipino Town. We have so many of these here that it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I will admit, watching this, I was very jealous that you can very easily go and try these restaurants out. Oh my God. I wrote down saffron porn when they just kept like showing the saffron pouring on top of each other. And I know saffron is so expensive and ridiculous, but I love saffron rice. It's so good.
Yeah. So this Saffron and Rose, that ice cream place, is 25 minutes away from me, which is, I mean, like, everything in LA is 25 minutes away from anywhere. So that's not even giving away, like, where I live or anything. Let's see. You've never tasted ice cream like this. Our heavenly milk and sugar blend creates a perfect base for mouth-watering Middle Eastern flavors, all made from pure, globally sourced ingredients. This is Persian ice cream at its finest. They've got saffron pistachio, orange blossom, white rose, pink rose, lavender, jasmine, date, cucumber, passion fruit. Are these ice creams you want?
Passion fruit sounds good to me. I wouldn't do cucumber. Just the smell of cucumbers don't make me happy, but I would probably eat most of those others.
But crazy stories from everybody interviewed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and like I said, this is when I wrote down, like, here's that theme of, like, just this constant, and I was glad that it was, Padma brought it up in this episode, is, you know, why are you yelling at the people that are here? We're the ones that left that place. Mm-hmm. Just the constant theme of all of these people who essentially got stranded away from their homeland in the late 70s during the revolution there. And just so sad. Like Hamid Mousavi, when he was talking about how, you know, everyone he knew, like, they'd go to America and they'd go to school and then they'd come back and be successful. And that was his plan. And then he just ended up being here. I really loved the cookbook author Naz Daravian. And I have already reserved her cookbook, Bottom of the Pot, from the library to take a look at.
Ooh, yeah.
That was like the first thing I did when I finished watching the episode, was hop on the library site to do that. And I mean, she was adorable. Like, I loved her red and white polka dot dress that she was wearing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, her talking about how she was immigrating just a little bit later than Mousavi had, and how her family, like, the U.S. had said, like, no more immigrants, which is just, I mean, I know we're seeing that again now with a lot of situations. And it's particularly Afghanistan right now, where it's like, these people need to get out for a reason, and they want to be here for a reason, but because of whatever conflict you're having, you're blocking them from coming here, which just seems so ridiculous on so many levels. And that they were waiting to get into either Australia or Canada, and it's just very frustrating, again, that this seems to be a way that history repeats itself.
It's a sad story to me, where all they had were the family photos that were just mailed.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, you know, they couldn't move anything else. They thought they were going back.
Yeah. They thought they were just leaving for a little while, not for
Yeah.
40 years.
And they're all scared to go back.
Yeah. Well, the final chef that Padma talked to, who was born here in the U.S., and said she does want to go and visit Iran, but she wants to be able to do it where she can be herself and not have to have a paper proving that this is her husband or her boyfriend and that she's allowed to be with this man in the streets, and just all of that. And I can understand that. I mean, I would not, and I don't have the connection of that is my family's homeland. Like, I would not want to go somewhere where I had to prove that this is my husband, so I'm allowed to walk in the street with him. Like,
Yeah. It's so hard that these people can only just remember what the food tastes like that they're serving,
yeah.
and that's all that they have. It's this, like, the memory of it. And so I feel like if I was them, I would just think about and ponder, like, how that is going to get diluted generation by generation and just end up being lost, you know?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. And that's unlike some of the other cultures where it's adapted. There's not a choice, like, for the Iranian Americans to go back in the way, like, German Americans can go back to Germany and find out what a sausage tastes like there. And even the Chinese Americans, a lot of them can go and get the quote-unquote authentic food in the homeland or have people come and visit and make it, and that's not, the borders are not open in that way between the U.S. and Iran.
I got also, you know, lots of vibes, again, salt, fat, acid, heat.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised Samin was not in this episode, but she is more Bay Area than LA.
Yeah, lots of tadig.
Yes.
Are you gonna make tadig?
You know, I've wanted to for a while, but then when the professional chef was like, it's a moody dish, and even I don't get it right all the time, I was like, oh no. I can't imagine what an Amanda version of that would be.
Okay, you come to LA, we'll go to these places.
Okay,
Go
deal.
to Persian restaurants and you can get tadig, just like you've always wanted.
Oh man, yes. Ever since I saw like an old BA video of Andy making it, I was just like, must have.
Do you like dolmas?
I don't know if I've ever had one.
You can get them canned in grocery stores.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know, but yes.
In LA,
I mean,
you can.
Yes, in LA you can, but maybe you can elsewhere. I don't like them, and I don't know what it is. The flavor, I think it's the grape leaf flavor I don't like.
Okay.
I've tried like several attempts to like dolmas because they're, you know, they pack a punch, so they're like a good, you know, hearty snack to have. And I really tried, and there's something about them that it's too strong, and I think it's the grape leaves.
Yeah, I do have a friend who's half Lebanese, and I know I've had some grape leaf dishes when I've been with her for various things, but I don't know. It also reminds me of the way the Ukrainians wrap things in cabbage.
God, I don't like cabbage either. Ugh, sorry.
Oh no, I agree. Like, whenever they do the stuffed cabbage at Christmas with my husband's family, they're always like, here, do you want some? And I'm like, I'm good, thank you.
Ugh, I could not. Oh, you just brought back childhood of ugh, stuffed cabbage for holidays. I'm like, why are you torturing yourself with it? Apologies to anybody who loves stuffed cabbage.
Usually the inside stuff I feel like tastes pretty good, and I'll be like, can I just have that and not the casing? So maybe that's what you need to have. Just don't take the grape leaf away and eat the insides.
Yeah. I'm trying to expand my palate, but then there's just some things still, you know, that just don't work for me.
Yeah. Well, I said we were at the North Market yesterday, and I thought about getting falafel, but it had hummus as like part of it, and hummus is a textural thing that I've tried for years to get over, and I can't.
I can't believe you don't like hummus.
I know! I can't believe I don't like hummus. It's ridiculous. And
Wait, what's the texture about it? Because you can blend it different ways.
I have tried so many times, like, putting, like, garlic on it or other things, like, that I like, and then tasting it, and then it's just like, I can't. my body just goes like, and I can't do it.
So you think it's like, I don't know, that the texture of something you don't like a vomit or baby food or something.
It's something, and I think it's also the chickpea of it. I think it's...
God, what's wrong with you?
I know.
It's okay.
Please forgive me.
I still like you. Have you ever had kebabs?
I have had kebabs, but I feel like I've also had the more Americanized kebab of like, oh, let's just put everything on a kebab and just like make it at a cookout kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a very common...
Shish kebab.
Yeah, that's a very common thing. You would get your skewer of some sort, and then there would be like a thing where you could load up what meats and veggies you wanted, and then take it to the grill, and they'd grill up a kebab for you.
Meat dish with its origins in Middle Eastern cuisine. Many variants are popular around the world, and there are so many different countries. Middle Eastern countries, Europe, various Asian countries, various sub-Saharan African countries. So people love skewers, is what I'm getting.
People love to skewer some meat and veggies.
Oh, even like a gyro is like a subtype of kebab. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in Norway, I went to a place that had both kebabs and gyros.
Wow, there's just so much kebab out there. It is all meat though, but that's why I'm like,
Yeah, a lot of it's meat. Which I know, not great for you, but I was watching them make the kebabs in this episode, and I was just like, ooh, yes.
Oh, but you know what I like? Satay.
Oh, okay.
And I still get like the soy chicken satay with the peanut sauce.
Mm.
That's how a vegan eats things off a stick. Yeah, American culture is just barbecue, pretty much. It's the shish kebab.
Mm.
And so it's now a culinary term for small pieces of cooked meat on a skewer. All prepared sort of differently as well.
Well, I would think as you were reading out like all the different regions, this again would come back to like you saying what oil did they use? Because all of these things are on skewers, but it's going to depend on like the spices and the oils used and the flavors that are put in to the kebab.
Yeah. Oh, and the American version, it's typical that you're doing the meat and vegetables together, which is not typical from other like typical Turkish style where the vegetables are cooked separate. Which makes sense because they cook at different temperatures.
It does make, well, yeah, I'm just trying to think back to like times that it would be like your squash or whatever would be like fully burnt, and then your meat would still be a little red, and yeah, that makes a lot more sense to do them, cook them separately and then put them together.
Why are we gonna do everything wrong? No. Learning a lot today.
Not doing the homework.
I thought this episode was great. It had a lot of heart. Oh God, just people talking passionately about their cultures, about their heritage, what they love. I just am always for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, just again with these two episodes, I'm continuing to absolutely love this show.
Yeah. Oh, when Naz went to that Tehran grocery in Santa Monica, that looked like a great store. And then the guy behind the counter, he was so sweet too.
I loved that he had the saffron in a Victoria's Secret bag.
It's precious. I haven't seen really rose petals in cooking before, like I have seen in like, you know, edible flowers on baking. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, because it was like the dried roses that she literally like crushed up as another aromatic spice. Yeah.
I thought that was very uniquely regional, and I thought that was very interesting.
Well, and with her daughter, I think they brought back in the theme of the next generation and how are you keeping that heritage alive as the generations continue on in the U.S.
Yeah, with her daughter being half Persian. She feels Persian when she's eating Persian food. It was a great backyard spread. Oh, that looked great.
That did. Oh, yes. All of this. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get the cookbook from the library and check it out.
Sounds great.
We've had quite the stirring conversation about Taste the Nation. So now we're going to see what is up on our back burner today. First up, I want to, we've posted about it on social media, but especially in these times, not everybody wants to hang out on social media. So if you're just listening, make sure you go check out the blog post that Meg made on our website about what all of your favorite Bon Appetit people are up to nowadays. You can find our website at podappetitpodcast.com. Check out her awesome blog post. She did a lot of research. Meg is awesome.
Yes, go into this next disgusting thing.
Yeah, so I put, in our notes, I put this as the candy corn abomination. Apparently, so look, I know candy corn is a very divisive candy to begin with.
I love you leveling with the people.
I love candy corn. But even this is just way, way too much for me. So Brach's came out with a turkey dinner, apple pie, and coffee candy corn. Which just, why? There's a great thread on Twitter from @momofnorank in which she describes each flavor as it goes on. And it's just really disappointing because as a fan of candy corn, I feel like constantly I'm trying to battle with everyone who thinks it's the worst candy in the world. And they do come up with different flavors each year, but normally it's things like caramel apple or there was like a s'mores one a couple years ago. You know, things that are candy like.
Things that are sweet.
Things that are sweet. Not things like mashed potatoes and gravy or
green beans.
Yeah, green beans. I love green beans. I don't want a green bean candy that's made of corn syrup. The post was made, or the thread was made on Twitter on October 7th. It's definitely worth looking through. Justine, I was so sad that this is in the world and that somebody in their marketing was like, you know what? Let's try this. Let's mass market this to the public.
This looks disgusting, and I already don't like candy corn. The thread is great. The stuffing tastes like hate and sage. So much sage. It's ironic because you'll need to burn sage to erase it from your psyche.
Oh my God. That one just had me like giggling when I read it. It's fantastic.
Hit us up on social media if you like candy corn.
Please, someone else agree with me that candy corn is pretty good when it's not a disgusting flavor. Next up with the back burner, Justine and I watched a new video from New York Times Cooking with Priya Krishna. Why do grocery stores still have ethnic aisles?
I love the journalism happening. Yes.
There is an accompanying article that neither of us read, but I don't have a New York Times subscription.
Yeah. Also, the video just dropped for us. So
yeah.
Breaking news. What did you think of the video, Amanda?
I am glad that you insisted that I watch it. As you know, I am a Priya stan. And also, I thought it was very interesting to see this question posed, and instantly the one person that was like, oh, the ethnic aisle is the best aisle, and that's where I want to go, was the middle-aged white woman. And I was just like, oh, you're clearly not hearing yourself talking. But I think what Priya's point of that it's a much more nuanced and bigger cultural question, and the way she was talking about how her grocery store, like she was at a grocery store in Queens that had more than one aisle of ethnic food and it was separated out, versus her grocery store in Brooklyn where she said they just have like one kind of soy sauce, like one brand.
Yeah, that grocery store looked amazing. All the aisles were just by country.
Yes.
So basically you just had to go exploring if you didn't know, you know?
Mm-hmm. I have been to a grocery store like that.
Ooh.
There's one in Cincinnati. You basically go on like a tour around the world, and every couple aisles is a different country, and they import stuff from all over the world. So you can go from like the UK to the Philippines just by going across the store.
Yeah, we've got sort of similar stores like that here, I think. Or I'm thinking of just, it's pretty pricey though. And it's just got like imported, it seems like it's an imported fancy stuff store.
Oh.
I've never seen a grocery store like this before. To me, like if you want to make Indian food with the right ingredients, you got to go to the Indian grocery store. You know, like we were talking earlier, the Persian grocery store, that's where you'll really get the varieties. Because, like, man, just thinking about how many friggin', like, boxes of cereal or jars of tomato sauce, like, olive oil, like Priya said in the video. Like, why is there, like, 10 different varieties of olive oil, but only, like, one soy sauce variety at my Ralph's or whatever?
I double-checked. The name of this store in Cincinnati is not the greatest, but it's Jungle Jim's International Market. There's a lot of really ridiculous, kitschy stuff all over. And Jeremy and I went there one time for, I forget, maybe our anniversary or something, but we just loved going through, and we got so many different imported foods from all over the world. But they do have an actual, like, grocery area, like where there are vegetables and fresh foods, and they have a butcher, and they have a bakery area, and they have a seafood area. You know, there's a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. But the thing is, what it comes down to, Ralph's is 5 minutes away from me. But if I want to go to the good Asian market, the 99 Ranch, that's 15 to 20 minutes away from me, you know?
Yeah.
Individual grocery stores around you, what's that like? If you didn't want to go to a supermarket.
If I didn't want to go to a supermarket, well, where I work, there are several Asian and Indian grocery stores very nearby that I could hit up on my way home, and have in the past. To get to either one of those grocery stores, though, I go past like a Kroger and a Giant Eagle and a Walmart. I know that there are other specialty markets and like stores throughout Columbus. I know where my husband works, there's a lot of very specific Mexican grocery stores. But again, you're still going to pass several major grocery stores on the way to get to those places.
Yeah, and like what Priya was saying, they can pay for the low prices of the items there.
Yes.
They can have things be on sale because, you know, it's Coca-Cola, you know, that...
Yeah, and those brands can also pay to have a prime spot where they have a display and there's a sale, as opposed to a smaller company that is owned by people of color who don't have the money. And it's amazing that they can even get it on the store at this major grocery chain, but then they can't pay the extra to have like a giant end cap that's like lights and sound and everything like going. I mean, think about the crazy shit you see, like you said, like Coca-Cola or like various beer stuff where everything is like stacked up to make some giant, I don't know, squirrel or something for fall. You know, there's all kinds of crazy shit like that.
I've also recently learned the history of the Piggly Wiggly.
Oh, what is the history of Piggly Wiggly?
Well, before Piggly Wiggly, grocery stores were just like grocers. Customers couldn't gather their own goods. You'd give your items to a clerk, and then the clerk would go and gather them up. And then, what was his name? Clarence Saunders. He's like, nah, I'm going to come up with this whole new sort of way. And we're going to have profits by having less clerks. People can go and gather their own stuff. And we're going to be able to put in more things. So that's going to decrease the price of the goods. He created what we know now is the first time to have checkout stands, prices on every single item in a store, shopping carts. And so changed grocery stores in the 1920s, 1930s, and, became what we have today.
I mean, it makes sense because this will sound silly, but like when you watch or read something that's like takes place in the Old West or, somewhere back in the 1800s, it's always like, well, they go to the store and they give someone a list and then it's delivered later, or they come back and pick it up later.
And then you're often buying things on credit. You don't know how much things cost. So it's like it's just like a bill that you pay is to your grocer. Whereas this new idea of like going into the store, seeing how much things cost, doing the math yourself, seeing things, how they're placed on shelves, that was the big boom of, advertising and marketing for these products, which wasn't a thing before.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So just blame Clarence for all of it.
Damn it, Clarence.
I don't know. As Priya says in the video, there's no right or wrong answer to any of this except for what we can, of course, choose to do in our busy lives. Like I'm always saying now, if you have a local farmer's market, go for it. You're contacting with the person right there, no middleman. If you can hit up smaller independent grocery stores, go for it. If you can grow vegetables yourself, go for it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Everything is hard. Every decision you make is hard and expensive.
Yeah. Well, we could do a whole podcast on just honestly, the expense of eating well and not just like, oh, nice stuff, but just like being able to eat food that is good for you costs a lot more than shitty food.
That's exactly like the whole American diet changed after this Piggly Wiggly phenomenon. Yeah, that's why people say it's like, oh, we're only eating like this now and we hadn't before. It's because of the change of the grocery store.
It all comes back together.
I feel like I'm blowing your mind here.
You are. No, but I also find this is why I love history, is like to see that. And I think this ties into what we were talking about with Taste the Nation too, is like you have to know the history to then learn and make changes.
Yes. No, you're exactly right about that. That's why with a lot of things to not shame people, because people are learning things all the time. Look, we grew up in the era we grew up in.
Right.
Some things aren't common knowledge.
And I don't know that everyone does this, but I believe in constantly trying to learn new things. And, just because you've got that diploma or that degree from wherever, it doesn't mean you have to stop learning things.
100%. I agree with that.
The last thing I had on the back burner, and we can just touch on it briefly, is Great British Bake Off 2021, still going on.
We're going to talk a little spoilers.
Yeah, I watched the most recent episode that aired from when we're recording, and I was really glad that Maggie left because I'm just going to go with the most classic thing possible and then mess it up and then be shocked by it. Like, you didn't put flour. You forgot to put flour in something.
Oh, come on. She's such a dear. Although I do think her going traditional for all her bakes was eventually going to be her downfall.
Yes.
Because they, like, as you said, they weren't perfect. Beside from her messing up the technical, she had kind of been sloping downwards, I think, since the first episode, because just the way Bake Off is, you have to sort of baseline be able to do what's expected, but then also on top of that, think of something new and out of the box that the judges will be impressed by. It's kind of like she was just trying to do the bare minimum, which they are not a fan of,
No, they want you to be extravagant.
Well, I'm excited for German week next week for us, in the past for those listening.
Yes. Oh my God. I just love, this is definitely the year of international dads. We've got Jurgen, we've got Giuseppe.
The listeners don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to. Like, how you are attracted to men of a certain age and type.
I don't care.
I'm enjoying. I think Freya is definitely going to struggle more and more as the base items become more and more complicated, especially not being a vegan baker for very long as she is. She's not experienced with sort of doing the things that they'll be requiring very soon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you think about her vegan baking.
I mean, so far it is very much what I do.
Okay.
Pretty standard, like tofu in places of some things, aquafaba in places of other things. But if they ask her to make an eclair, I think she'll be done for.
I can see that.
You can make anything vegan, but it might
take a certain skill set to get it.
Yeah, and also might take longer, too, to get the exact same result.
Yeah, that makes sense. And she's not going to have a different timetable as everybody else.
Yeah. So I don't think she's in it to win it, but I think she's doing great, and she's doing what she can do. And she hasn't completely, like, messed up things that involve, like, dairy products.
No, there was the one where her eggs had gotten a little curdled, but half the people did not do well on that technical, so, or more than half. Well, we are on to shout-outs. So, we want to thank everybody who has been interacting with us on both Twitter and Instagram. Special thanks to the Unwritable Rant, the Table Envy, B is for Bagel Book, and What in the Word Pod for sharing Justine's love of dill. Thank you to those who added to our fall food bucket list, Watsa Test Kitchen, and Hey Jen Owens. I believe Vibrant Visionaries and Mary talked to us there as well. And thank you for the love for Justine's bread find from Hey Parco Podcast and KL Blake. If you would like to give us some feedback by either sharing a review with us or sending us an email, we love to hear from all of our listeners. So let us know what you're thinking about the podcast. Well, thank you for joining us this week. Next time on the podcast, we will have Taste the Nation, Episode 7, The Original Americans, and Episode 8, Dancing in Little Lima.
Bye! Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appétit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Quiz. What do America's First Serial Killer, A Crime-Solving Parrot, Jimmy Hoffa, and yours truly have in common? We each honed our craft in the great state of Michigan. I'm Jen Carpenter, the host of So Dead, a true crime podcast where I take the cases I cover seriously. Myself? Not so much. If you want to take a deep dive into cases you've never heard before, I'm your girl. Just call me Scuba Jen. No, definitely don't do that. New episodes of So Dead are released on True Crime Tuesdays, and you can find me wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be waiting.
So dead, so dead. So